Thursday, February 7th, 2019, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning I want to talk about the ancient history of gold and silver and look at some excerpts in this book here called The Ages of Gold by Timothy Green. This book was written in 2007. It's the kind of book that has loads of beautiful pictures. I highly recommend it. Yeah, I think I bought it back then, right when it came out. I bought it, it was 33 pounds, it says here in the inside jacket. Nowadays you can buy it used for around 20 pounds on Amazon, but you can look for it elsewhere. And why am I going to look at this book? Well, because Timothy Green has done a great job of researching not only, it says here, mines, markets, merchants, and goldsmiths from Egypt to Troy, Rome, to Byzantium and Venice, and to the space age. So he goes back right to the beginning. Of course, some of you might argue that things started out much earlier, but I'm going to look at 6,000 years ago. The reason also I'm looking at this is a lot of times we go through the Austrian school regression theory analysis of how gold became money, and it's very theoretical. I think this will give you a good idea of how it started out. And hopefully you will enjoy it. Before that, of course, let's quickly look at these financial markets this morning. It's just before 8:30 a.m. So yesterday the stock markets were down, broadly lower. The Nasdaq lost 1/3%. The Dow and the S&P didn't lose as much, but they were slightly down. So where are we this morning? Gold and silver, of course, got hit hard, fairly hard, late in the day in the U.S. Well, middle of the day in the U.S., late in the day here in the U.K. We were trading most of the day above 1310, and then all of a sudden it just dumped $4, and they kept hitting gold and silver. This morning gold is lower. It's at 1304 right now, down just over $2. The low has been 1302.69, the high 1308. Silver 1565, basically unchanged, so it's holding on here this morning. Range has been 1563 to 1571. The stock markets continue to go lower here. The Dow futures down 61, or of 0.25%, 25,308. S&P 500 is down 8 1/4, just under 1/3, 2723. Nasdaq 100 futures down 28, just under 0.5% at 69.69. The pound is lower. We're testing 129, it's 129.07, down 0.2. Euro slightly lower, 0.1% at 113.50. Dollar trading at 110 against the yen, actually. So the dollar's firmed up from yesterday against the yen. It's firmed up a little bit here against the yuan. It's at 678. So yeah, we've seen the dollar strengthen a little bit in the last 24 hours or so. Oil price pretty much where we were yesterday when I made the video, 53.90. It is down overnight though, about 0.5%. The bond market, the 10-year yield is down about 2 basis points at 268. The yield curve, as per the 1-year to the 5-year, is 6 basis points inverted. Ages of Gold. I've had this book for a long time, and I don't think I've ever recommended it or anything. And it's the kind of book you can read sections of, but I've decided to look at it from the beginning, and it's been many years since I've looked at it. And I've taken some excerpts that I think hopefully you will find interesting. So I'll just talk a little bit about Ages of Gold. So in the back here it says, this is the story of the mines, the markets, the goldsmiths, and the merchants who, over the last 6,000 years, made gold a symbol of wealth and power, both in wonderful ornaments and as money in people's pockets. Building on 40 years' experience investigating the modern market, Timothy Green has sought out its ancient origins in Mesopotamia, Egypt, Troy, Minoan Crete, Greece, China, Rome, Byzantium, Venice, and pre-Columbian South America. So, yeah, I want to start from the beginning and show you how gold and silver have been an integral part of modern civilization, so to speak, of people trading for things. So part 1 says the ancient world, 4000 BC to 1 BC. Of course, it goes to Mesopotamia. If some of you don't know, it's in present-day Iraq. It's the land between the rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates River. So, I've highlighted some excerpts from which I'll read here in the book. I'm quoting from the book. It's not from my head. Links with its neighbors were vital to Mesopotamia's prosperity. Its initial wealth was founded on irrigation through the taming of the Euphrates and Tigris and digging of canals, which gave the region an abundance of grain and other agricultural products. Yet Mesopotamia lacked the accessories of wealth, not just precious stones or ivory or fine timbers, but metals. So it shows you how Mesopotamia was fertile, but they lacked what the book calls accessories of wealth, like precious stones, timbers, and metals. Precious metals as well, gold and silver. And here there's another excerpt, because this is a book about gold, but silver is mentioned a lot of times, and this is very interesting. And I'll quote again. Initially, silver fulfilled the wider monetary role for the practical reason that it was in more abundant supply. Gold was a rare metal, a vital factor in establishing its credential, especially its affinity with gods. So they used gold a lot they made a lot of like ornaments for the temples. They used it for tombs. It's interesting, he talks about how in 1977 they found the tomb of Philip of Macedonia, who was Alexander the Great's father, and it was a box, a gold box where the ashes of Philip of Macedonia was kept. So the gold box. So that's what gold initially was used for, because it's very rare. What else does it say? Thus we learn of gold and silver not so much through the discoveries of ornaments as in most early civilizations, but by dealings inscribed on tablets. Even the clerk's calculations of how much thin gold sheet or leaf will be required to adorn a new temple are set down. So I've heard people comment before on videos that I've made, about this other book, What Has Government Done with Our Money, by Murray Rothbard, in which he talks how gold and silver were used as money thousands of years ago, like it says here. Someone said, oh no, it started out with tablets. They used tablets as money. But it clearly shows here that tablets in Mesopotamia and also in Babylon were used as a way to keep record of gold and silver transactions. The Mesopotamians, they were able to acquire precious stones, gold and silver, because they exchanged it for, they had the grain, and the other cultures had the so-called accessories of wealth. So with that in mind, let's look at this other excerpt. It says, the prosperity of these nascent cities While these cities, they evolved, well, around 4000 BC, even earlier, over 6,000 years ago, between the Tigris and Euphrates. The prosperity of these nascent cities soon demanded luxuries for living and the adornment of their temples. We learn through a written Sumerian legend how Emerkar, the ruler and builder of Uruk, just across the Euphrates from Ubaid, bargained with the lord of Arata, somewhere in western Persia, for gold, silver, blue lapis lazuli, and red carnelian to decorate his new temple. He would pay in grain. So he wasn't paying in tablets. He was paying in grains. So the other interesting excerpt I found is how the gold-silver ratio was already very important back in this period. This is more like 1300 BC, but very interesting. It goes, the profit in sending gold to Mesopotamia, at least in later periods, is revealed by an intriguing analysis of the gold-silver ratio around 1300 BC, as seen in the city of Ugarit on the Mediterranean, which was a transit point for the metals trade. In Egypt, gold-silver ratio is 1 to 2. So with 1, let's say, ounce of gold, you got 2 ounces of silver. In Ugarit, it varied between 1 to 3 to 1 to 4, while in Mesopotamia, or Iraq nowadays, it was 1 to 9. Gold was thus valued at over 4 times the Egyptian price in Mesopotamia. No wonder all caravan routes led there. The gold dust and nuggets we learned from an earlier Sumerian source were carried on the backs of donkeys in leather pouches. The other point about silver being money, and like in French, argent means silver and money, or in Spanish, plata means money and silver. And I'll read here. It says, shortly after, in the Akkadian or Sargonic period between 2350 and 2100 BC, the word for silver came to mean money, as it did in French millennia later. So that's another interesting point about the ancient history of gold and silver. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up, share it far and wide, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on YouTube, Steemit, and on Twitter. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.